Hello, everyone. Welcome back with the Blockopedia podcast. I'm Mohammed Ahmad Khan, co-founder of the Blockopedia. Today, we have Ivan, CEO of Neon Labs, and Ivan has experience in working with the Ethereum, Solana, and several chains. And Ivan has been building across Web3 for years from Polygon to Solana to Ethereum and leading Neon Labs into the next phase with the launch of Parasol. Ivan, great to have you there. And let's get it started.
Great pleasure to be here, and thank you, Ahmad, for inviting me and arranging all of this.
Thank you so much for having with us. So, Ivan, I would love to start with your journey before we dive more into the Neon Labs. Can you share your journey? How did you first get into the crypto and the Web3?
So, I would say that for the first 10 years of my career of being in tech, I considered myself an engineer, and I was very much interested in new technologies and solving problems with the coming of these new technologies. But at the time when I got into Web3, I was already a washed up engineer, and I was more in tech executive roles. So in one of our previous companies, we started a small lab department before selling the core company to GoDaddy. And we tried experimenting with new technologies in that lab department. And in 2015, after Ethereum ICO, we discovered Ethereum. We already knew about Bitcoin and blockchain as a concept, but this idea of smart contract platforms, was very interesting for us at that time, and that's why basically in November, December 2015, we tried building an email on top of Ethereum. It was an interesting project. You can still find it. It's open source. It's there under the name Lemon Email. And that it was more like a multimedia messaging platform on top of Ethereum and IPFS back in the day. But we launched it in 2017, and suddenly, with the ICO boom, the price of Ether went from a few dollars basically to $1,000, and we ended up with the world's most expensive email. So it was not a very very successful project, from a financial standpoint. But I think, it taught me kind of when you bring fault tolerant distributed systems on the internet, what actually can you expect. And I got hooked onto that. And soon after I left GoDaddy, where I had to stay for 2 years, after the acquisition of our previous company. And during 2017, I transitioned fully to Web3 and basically never looked back.
Amazing, like having engineering background, and seems like you have a core division from the development and from the hustler side and moving into the Web3 as a CEO of the Neon. So I have a question. Like you have worked across Ethereum, Polygon, and the Solana ecosystem. What has the cross ecosystem experience taught you, like about building scalable blockchain infrastructure on Solana? Like you are working currently on Parasol.
Yes, I think there are very few people, not to say that they aren't, but very few that had the experience maybe in being a part of major projects across multiple blockchains, especially at the protocol level. When we first got interested in Ethereum, it was definitely the first, and in many ways, it's still the biggest, smart contract platform out there. And we got hooked. Gavin Wood actually gave us back then 20,000 ethers as a grant from Ethereum Foundation when we were building that email. Back then it was $18,000, and we ended up spending that basically sending emails. So when Gavin, went and did Polkadot, I followed that and became a contributor, and I was one of the early members of the Polkadot Ambassador program. So I very early got into Cosmos and Polkadot and this idea of application-specific blockchains because I was hurt by this situation where basically we ended up not being able to build our email products because we had to compete with other people for gas price and for block space. So I was kind of always in this camp that you probably do want to scale these networks, and at least at that point in time, by just adding block space and more infrastructure in different ways. And so coming from that mindset, I think that I thought maybe a little bit differently than some people who were early Ethereum enthusiasts at the time. And I was much more about the ability to send more transactions on the cheap side than I was about the price of the coin and how much money Ethereum as an ecosystem can make. So from this perspective, I think I went into this idea. Let's try experiment with different architectures. And I personally back then considered that in many ways, what Polkadot tried to build shouldn't have actually happened, with new languages and new implementations, but that probably that was the way that Ethereum should have scaled back then in the day. And from that idea, I also ended up running a big services company that helped with a lot of protocol development and application development for a number of big blockchain projects. And what happened, and I think was amazing, that a lot of people from that early group, the biggest that we got was 130 developers or so. What best came out of that group is the fact that a number of people that worked on these projects full time went on to found their own companies. For example, one of our researchers, Ivan Bjelajac, went on to found Polygon, and we worked on that with him. Then it merged with Matic, and we were early contributors to Polygon ecosystem in many ways. Some guys went off and founded Tenderly. I was an angel investor in Tenderly, and later I worked with them as their VP of strategy. But the fact that out of all of these ideas and interactions with all of these people who wanted to build new things, we were able to talk frankly about trade-offs, from these different ecosystems, and the fact that we were able to work together, on possible solutions, accept that none of these solutions was perfect in many ways, and just go with them and then try to implement them, try to see, what are the positive sides and negative sides, looking if, a project is a good fit for that ecosystem, or maybe we should go into another, and understanding multiple ecosystems and their trade-offs. I think that that is something that gave me a competitive advantage, down the road, because a lot of times, we have this tribalism in blockchains that just comes down to basic misunderstanding. A lot of projects basically do not know about the trade-offs the other project is making, and they try heavily to explain that the trade-off that they made is necessary because some of the features that they have are more important than the other. And this lack of desire, to accept that basically, choosing how to build an infrastructure is about making trade-offs, and that not all use cases are fit for every trade-off, is something that it's basically, I would say, common sense. And in many ways, just the fact that I was able to be there early on to get exposed to these other ideas, made me think a little bit different. A lot of people that came to Ethereum never left Ethereum. Maybe they still love Ethereum for what it is. I definitely appreciate Ethereum, for a lot of its features. But at the same time, I appreciate some things about Ethereum even more because I saw both the good and the bad, about, in other ecosystems too. And at the end of the day, I also appreciate those other ecosystems as well in many, many ways.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And it's a very logical approach. Like I have seen, like the lots of the projects are coming into the space, and sometimes they choose the ecosystem and the chain just for getting the grants. Sometimes, like they actually do not spend time and think about like, is this the chain is really going to help me to achieve my vision? What exactly I'm going to fulfill? Then after some times they go for okay, let's I'm building on the Polygon, and then slow go let's go for another blockchain, and then let's go for another blockchain, and they called it a multi-chain project. But what end of the day we found like okay, if we choosing multiple chains, and the problem is this, like you have to change a lot of the things in the codes, lot of the things into the projects, and somehow by the end of the day a customer and a user is going to be suffer having so much confusions. Like sometimes like the protocol is not appropriate for that particular chain, and sometimes like the we have facing some cross border things. And
Yeah,
so this is the things I have also seen. I have worked with some project very closely, and I found like okay, you are quite good with this particular chain, but now just for like you got some grants and you have a like insider connections, or maybe you have a good faith into the Ethereum ecosystem, so that you don't want to be leave Ethereum. But you know very well, like if I have to leave the Ethereum and I have to work particular on this chain, I can do much better. But just because of like few things, like they can't.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
there is something interesting happening, because it's an interesting blend, what happened in blockchains, because we have this history about how open source developed. If you remember, in the late 90s, you had this article, Cathedral versus Bazaar by Eric Ray, and it covered, these differences, about when you are a part of a cathedral, a big corporation, top-down organization that builds in silos. And then on the other hand, we have the open bazaar, the open source spirit, the tooling that goes with that. And I did, a lecture, at a couple of Ethereum conferences about how basically the cathedral ate the bazaar. Basically they merged and became the same thing today. All of the tools and methodologies that closed source software used to do back in the 90s, early 2000s. Uh, all of them are today obsolete, and basically the corporations adopted version control in Git. They adopted Scrum and Agile development. They adopted everything that open source had as an advantage. And on the other hand, in many ways, we have most of the open source software today being built by a single company or maybe a couple of contributors. But at the end of the day, those companies also adopted four different known playbooks how to monetize open source. And for me, it was extremely interesting that Bitcoin and Ethereum came to be, because it was the first time when suddenly with this idea about token, that is a part of the network, you suddenly can basically benefit from the project that can be open source without you incorporate. And I think that's a powerful thing, but at the same time we have zero idea how to use. So the fact that at the same time you end up with this situation where you have a token that is a product by itself, you are trying to push that product to the masses together with another product they are supposed to use. You end up in this weird situation where you are basically generating a lot of friction for yourself or for developers that need suddenly to adopt both. And that is very hard, and the fact that there is so much VC money, so much retail money, a bit less retail now than at a certain point in time, but still the fact that there is so much money to build in this industry, you end up basically playing this game of talking to other people who are building other projects. How do you guys basically fund each other? But it's coming from an investor pool. It's not coming from the end user pool. It's and I think people need to understand that at the end of the day, this is not how you bring in actual users. This is how I think Solana, on the other hand, is pretty good there, because with all of the trade-offs that Solana made, on the other hand, it did manage to, capture a generation that likes using Solana as a chain. We can discuss, what are the benefits of Solana, what are the benefits of Ethereum, but I think Solana is much more user-friendly in many ways. And in that regard, I deeply respect Solana as an ecosystem. Breakpoint, I was recently there as a speaker. It was my first Breakpoint, and it's an amazing conference. And I think that, it's very user-centric. It's much less about doing the best academic work, but it's much more about what the actual user needs. And I think that that was a good decision. So I hope that more chains, including Ethereum, Ethereum layer 2s, but also Ethereum mainnet, tries a little bit of that Solana playbook when it comes how to cater to the end customer. Because at the end of the day, I think that Web3 DevRel space is a great example of this kind of broken culture that we have. Because I went into a couple of DevRel groups, and it's mostly DevRels talking to other DevRels. But the point of the DevRel is supposed to, not to have other developer relationship experts and other people selling their products. It's to help your user community. And the fact that we kind of got it backwards, and we are circling in this endless loop, when it comes to a lot of Web3 builders. I think we need to figure out ways how to break that.
Yeah, like absolutely agree. And regarding the Solana for the user perspective, like quite good. And I was like Solana Breakpoint was also my first time in Abu Dhabi, and it was really a very good experience. I have seen like so many new things are coming out, and the companies are working and the projects are working on Solana. They are coming with some small projects, and some products are like quite user friendly, so that a user can be accessible through all. So let's move into the Neon part. Like for the listener who are very new and don't know about the Neon EVM, in simple terms, can you explain what is Neon EVM?
Neon EVM started basically at the end of 2021 as an idea that Solana back then was a very new chain, that you can have EVM and execute Solidity code on Solana. So basically, the idea was to have the best of both worlds. Back then, Solidity had much better both tooling support, which it still has, and on the other hand, also much more users and applications existed written for EVM. And on the other hand, Solana was this upcoming fast new smart contract platform that had basically parallel execution and the ability to build much faster. So the idea behind Neon came that we can put EVM on top of Solana, like Evmos and Ethermint, etc. Tried to put EVM on top of Cosmos, etc., etc. And so pretty much the idea was straightforward. Let's take Ethereum applications and deploy them on Solana, and that's it. Yes, so that was the base idea. If someone needs to in short, explain what Neon EVM is, it's basically an EVM running on top of Solana, enabling EVM, Ethereum Solidity applications to be used on this other chain.
Got it. And we check out your talk of Solana BP, and you have announced Parasol. So Neon Labs recently announced Parasol. What is the Parasol, and what gap in the market lead into the creation of this project?
So what we realized, from 2021, 2022 going forward is that the story of an EVM on Solana sounds nice, and I still definitely want to keep it. But what we realized is that the market changed significantly over time. Both Solana and Ethereum diverged in different directions. Today, you can deploy Uniswap version 2 on Neon EVM, but you cannot deploy Uniswap version 4 just because Solana has its own limitations when it comes to consensus, how much compute you can use. You cannot, you do not have nonces like you have in Ethereum, so you cannot have this full composability of you as an application ordering transactions. There are a lot of limits that today applications use on Ethereum for the, more complex DeFi or other use cases that you cannot really do on Solana. So, and on the other hand, Solana, Ethereum is used by 200, 300K people per day. Solana is used by around 4 million. So there is a big opportunity in Solana on the user base side also. So I wouldn't discount Solana there, but a lot of this speed and other things was achieved by making it simpler to use, in many ways. And also there is a trade-off there, you cannot have a very complex program on top of Solana. So great for trading, maybe a little bit less great for building complex applications. So in this setup, what we realized is that there are now already big projects on Solana. There is no reason for us to bring maybe a big Ethereum app to Solana for lending if there is already Camino. There isn't a need for us to have a large EVM-based aggregator, on Solana when there is Jupiter, etc., etc. So you come to this situation where Solana already, when we were building Neon EVM, Solana in many ways built out its own ecosystem. But that ecosystem struggled with this more complex execution and its lack of ability to have the level of complexity of DeFi that Ethereum has, just with more speed. So what we ended up doing, because Neon was one of the first network extensions on Solana, which is a concept that is similar to L2s in terms that you want to remove compute from the main chain to another layer in a way, but it's not really a layer 2 because you still end up using Solana's consensus and block space and everything else. And it's built in a way that you do not feel like you are leaving Solana. You are still using, your Solana wallet, you are still just sending Solana transactions. The fact that we move some of the compute off-chain and verified the ZK and we put it back is something that is totally invisible to the end user. And by doing this, this approach, we said, maybe, we do not need to focus just on EVM on Solana. Maybe we need to just focus on extending the abilities of Solana native programs so that we can have the level of abilities that we have on Ethereum, but have them on native Solana programs. So they are still written in Rust. They are fully using Solana and SVM, but we ended up basically using the same approach that we did when we built Neon EVM to now do it basically for SVM. And it proved to be I think a much more needed product right now to the community because, as I said, most of the people actually using Solana right now are using Solana native apps. There are 4 million of them every day, and they just want a better experience when it comes to the features of the programs that they can use. And by giving them more off-chain compute and even faster, transactions because we process them off-chain and then chain them and put them back to Solana in batches. I think we were now able to give them that, at least in our testing, in our testing environment because we still haven't released our public perm decks for them to use. But what we currently have, I think, proves that this is doable and that it adds a lot of value to Solana ecosystem.
Nice. And what is your targeted audience for the Parasol? Like, who is Parasol built for? Is it initially for developers, for institutions, or for
Yeah.
capital-focused teams?
I think it's a good question. I think that in the long run, it's built for everyone because everyone will need more complex program execution on top of Solana if they want to build it. But today, because of let's say limitations of what you can do with ZK on Solana, because there are no general purpose libraries that you can just reuse, on Solana when it comes to ZK and, the small block sizes the small compute size of the number of compute units you can use within one block, to be more precise, are such that it's harder to use right now ZK on Solana than on Ethereum. And we still, because of this lack of general purpose libraries, have to write custom ZK circuits for every application. So because of that, we decided that our first products are going to target CLB perp DEX builders and developers, and we are basically launching our own version of a perp DEX, CLB perp DEX that is going to work on Solana using this engine, and we want to partner with people to reuse the engine to basically launch their own CLB perp DEXs powered by our technology right now. The main reason is the lack of time for us to build ZK circuits for every purpose that we can come up with. And we definitely want to come to the market as soon as possible instead of trying to build a general purpose solution that will take 3, 4, 5 years to build out. And we want to be there to people to use these products. But if you ask me about the vision for 5 years from now, I would love to give everyone a general framework that they can just reuse to build out whatever type of software that they want using this approach and this in the background. Also, anyone who wants to build on Solana with ZK or want to contribute to ZK on Solana, we are extremely open for collaboration, because whoever makes ZK easier on Solana together with us or with their own projects, we need that, and we are just going to adopt it in many ways. So we are very open for developer collaborations to whoever comes our way.
Absolutely. And this is also the information for everyone. If anybody wants any help for building some on ZK on Solana, like Neon can help you out. So I would like to know, which Web3 trends excite you the most right now? Like, lots of the companies and the projects are working on some modular chains. Somebody is talking about roll-ups and the RWAs and something else on ZK. On, like, which things excite you the more? Like, which trend excites you the more?
Yeah, I would say multiple, but at the end of the day, I am actually extremely bullish of this concept of network extensions. I love what we are doing currently with network extensions right now on Solana, and this idea that you are on the mainnet in many ways, but that you extend the mainnet in a way that is invisible to the user. And I would actually love to see, in the near future, if we could do something similar on Ethereum also. There is no reason not to. In many ways, network extensions are something that exists primarily on Solana right now. There are a couple of them, including Neon and Parasol. But at the end of the day, this is I think a very interesting approach, because this promise of layer twos, that is about unlimited block space. It also means unlimited deployment of tooling. It also means unlimited, storage that needs to be paid by someone, etc., etc. So maybe, I think that an interesting way of thinking is maybe in our minds we, return a little bit to layer ones and how we can make them better. At the end of the day, Solana is a monolithic layer one, and network extensions were created there. So why wouldn't we be able to use them in other blockchains and approaches? I see no reason why not.
And I have seen you're coming from engineering background, and you are into the Neon as a CEO. So based on your experience, like, what skills matter the most for the founders building deep tech infrastructure in Web3? And what advice would you like to give to someone like who is willing to enter into the Web3 and building something? So, what is the common thing they can should be avoid, and what are the mistakes they can be do while entering into the space?
I think it's important to play to your strengths in many ways. At the end of the day, the most dangerous way to build a product is to build in a silos and not showcasing to everyone and not being able to learn from other people. So if you are just a good salesperson, find a technical co-founder, go out there in the wild, start talking to people, start, realizing their pains, just try to develop something they will try to use. They might tell you they hate it, it might be terrible, but at least you will have a lot of feedback. So I think not having feedback is extremely dangerous. Uh, if you are not technical, you probably do not want to go down the rabbit hole of protocol development to think about, how a blockchain fully works, but and to deal with infrastructure, because a lot of the feedback you are going to hear, you're just not going to understand. I think it helped me, I work with much better engineers than myself. There are many concepts that they explain to me that I wouldn't be able to understand, but at least we have by myself, but at least we have this shared base of knowledge that helps me understand what is good, what is not, what I can accept as an answer, and what I need to push back on from a business perspective. If you are not technical, and you just find someone for you an engineer, it's probably easier to stick to the application layer, and to stick to the problems that you deeply understand on the customer side, and leave the protocol and the infrastructure work to others. But at the same time, I think that it comes down to playing to your strength. Me being an ex-system engineer, that used to work with operating systems, with networking, with servers, this was easier for me to do than to try to build an Instagram-like app. But if you are a social media influencer that wants to get involved, with blockchain, do try to build a better Twitter. Do try to build a better end user application that is close to your strengths and how do you like interacting with the internet. For me, it was servers, but for someone else, it can be taking pictures. I don't think that that is any worse. In many ways, you should just try to add value to the end customer as much as possible. If you put out an early version of the product and you're not embarrassed, that probably means you waited too long. And that is also the reason why I keep saying that with Parasol, we want to go into this direction of giving people a product to use. It will be a single use case product, that will showcase the power of Parasol. But in the long-term future, we do plan to build out across that ecosystem. At the end of the day, in many ways, the fact that we are now building out Parasol as an engine might tomorrow benefit Neon EVM too. We might decide to migrate our EVM to Parasol as an infrastructure at the end of the day. And I think that this new type of an approach we are trying to use will, in the long run, greatly benefit everyone. But you need to start somewhere. And the most dangerous way to try to build a product is to try to build it in isolation and showcase it when you are ready. Never wait to be ready. Just start talking to people at once. And if you're building anything on Solana, the superpower, that helped me, become a big part of Solana ecosystem in only 5 months since I joined as Neon Labs CEO, and we pivoted the company into the direction of Parasol were Solana super teams. Especially in my case, super team Balkans, because I come from this part of Europe. But all of the super teams so far, as far as I can see, are extremely devoted to their communities. They help out, even if you just ask them, like, where do I learn about Solana more? But also, they give you feedback about the product. They put you in touch with the builders that are in same stage as you or a little bit above you to give you feedback about what you are trying to build. And I think out of all ambassador or promotional programs that I saw with other blockchains, that I was involved with, the super teams are definitely by far the best and most engaged and most properly developed one. So from that perspective, if you are building anything on Solana, do go to your regional super team, try to connect with them on Discord or in other ways. I am very sure that they would help
Amazing. It's a uh, very good explanation, like what we have to choose, what we have to work on, and if we want this particular path, this is the way to success. And you explained well, if you have a two paths, like one way is the way to go, and other way is to go to achieve this particular thing. So it's a very good thing, and I feel like the most people will learn from it. I have asked so many questions, and it's really a very good session with you, and we learned very lots of the things and the very new things I have learned. And I would like to end up this podcast and would you like to share something, future updates for the Neon and regarding some Parasol? Just please share with us. And it will be it's a very nice talking to you, and I really enjoyed a lot, and I really learned so many things from the Solana side, from the Ethereum side, from the Polkadot, from the ecosystem, even from the super teams. So it's really a very nice talking. So let us know like if you have any update or future things you have.
I think that if you just go to our Twitter account built on Parasol, and if you sign up, it will be a good next step, for us to keep interacting also. But what I would say is that it's very interesting about the fact that there are two ways to achieve trustlessness in a blockchain ecosystem. One is to have your own consensus, and other one is through ZK. And I think that the fact that ZK started with these different applications right now in this renaissance of cryptography today is just scratching the surface. But in many ways, people are also trying to solve maybe even too much with ZK today. What we are all about is using the current state of ZK research to build market-ready products, and then to try, to advance that or work with others to keep advancing it. So I do believe that there is a near-time future coming to Solana through internet capital markets about this plan with DeFi and RWAs. We do need more sophisticated DeFi on Solana, not just faster DeFi, but also more sophisticated. And I believe that Parasol is currently the best and fastest way to achieve that. Down the line, Solana will evolve, Parasol will have to evolve, and we will, I believe, keep building better and better products. But at the end of the day, for me, this is about what the market needs right now and about what we can actually build and deploy right now. And I believe that we are a right partner for someone, for something like this. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more what we are releasing, do follow us. Hopefully when we do our first release, we will do another chat about all of this. But at the end of the day, I think that Solana has an amazing position. ICM is definitely coming on chain, not just on Solana, but in general, and I am very excited about the next few years to see where these DeFi protocols are going to go now that we also have RWAs coming on. Because I think RWAs also are an interesting perspective for DeFi because they give us now uncorrelated asset that we can hedge DeFi against. And that's a very interesting moment in DeFi history that I think it's going to enable a lot of new use cases we never really had before.
Yeah. It's really helpful, and I would like to say, if everyone is listening, make sure to follow Neon Labs and explore Neon EVM and Parasol to stay updated and what they are building. And Ivan, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great learning about your journey and the work you are doing at Neon and the thinking behind Parasol. It's really amazing. So thank you so much, Ivan, for joining us, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for the invite. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much.